Well, good morning and welcome to the roundtable. Mr. Ghosn will be here for 45 minutes. We certainly want to give everyone an opportunity to answer any questions. We also have a few of the executives from North America here as well. Of course, José Muñoz is with us, José Muñoz from Canada. So if we can get started, Paul, I'll always offer you the first opportunity.
Last month was a little bit shakier in the U.S. than we've seen for a while. Wondering what you are seeing. Is there a stutter in the market, or is it just temporary? And are you worried about a possibility of price wars?
Of?
Price wars.
Okay, no, for last month, we're talking about the month of March.
Right.
So you asked me to comment on the month which ended 48 hours before. So I'm gonna give it to José Muñoz, who is heading the North American operation, to comment on the month of March, and then I will answer the second question. Please, José.
Okay, so well, thank you. So we know that the month of March was flat in terms of year over year, but it's normal because, as you know, we had 1 day less and 1 weekend less. And in the US, the most important business takes place on the weekend. So we just saw continuous growth in the market, so we remain confident. And also, despite the bad weather, that was a little bit worse than expected. So we're still okay.
Yeah, so am I worried about price war? Not particularly. I don't think the market has been particularly forgiving in 2014. So I was competitive in 2014. It will continue to be competitive in 2015. I don't think you're going to see something higher or lower, but obviously you have to discuss segment by segment, car by car. You may have situations which are different, but overall I think it's a very competitive market. It's healthy and competitive, and it's going to continue like this. I don't think you're going to see anything more or less disruptive in 2015. That's my opinion.
Disruptive, you mean people rushing the market with lots of incentives?
Yeah, disruptive mean people selling cars like there is no tomorrow. That's what I call disruptive. It may happen from time to time, but we don't see anything like this on a massive scale.
Joey?
You've talked in the past, or hinted in the past, that as you go into the next couple of years, that it could be time to restructure the Renault-Nissan Alliance, both maybe in terms of shareholdings, perhaps in other ways as well. And as you get closer toward your goals in North America in terms of share and sales, do you see a time when the capital structure of this alliance should be or ought to be changed?
Yeah, look, in fact, there are two different things. There are first the operational performance of each one of the company, and then you have the financial structure of the alliance. Obviously, there is always this question: can we have a better financial structure at the level of the alliance? There is always this question. I had this question since day one, since 1999. This is something which is always coming back. And I say the financial structure of the alliance will always take the back seat to the operational performance at the level of the alliance. Because at the end of the day, what you want is something which is sustainable. And sustainability is based on efficiency and on sustainability of the performance of each one of the company. Today we are still in a phase where we are optimizing the performance of each company. Nissan, today we're talking about Nissan. Nissan has still a lot of things to do. We are in the middle of Power 88 plan, we still have to reach 8% operating margin that we are setting for the fiscal year 2016. We still have to reach 8% total overall global market share by the end of fiscal year 16, which means it has to be measured on a full year on fiscal year 17.
So
17?
2017.
Yeah, okay. So you have the impact of all the products and all the measures you've taken during the plan. We still have a lot of room to go. At the same time, to fuel that, we have a lot of synergies which are being developed between Renault and Nissan, which is supporting Nissan performance from one side. and Renault performance from the other side. I think for the moment we are concentrating on that. I think optimizing the performance of each company, making sure that each company, by the way, while Nissan is doing that, Renault has its own midterm plan of 50 billion euro measured in 2017 and the 5% operating margin. And we're going well. And it's being sustained by synergy, and we're going well. So that's for me the priority, is making sure that the two plans are successful. And what's important, because people say, yeah, but 8% operating margin, maybe not too much, while some of your competitors are already at 9 or 10. I say, we're talking about sustainability here. I'm not talking about an 8%, which is based on an exceptional exchange rate or on an exceptional situation in that or that market. I'm talking about a sustainable 8%. An 8% which would be considered as a basic normal performance delivered by Nissan, no matter what is the environment in which Nissan is competing. We're not there yet, but we're confident that we'll get there.
So just quick follow-up.
Yeah.
I take away from that this question about the capital structure, which I know some of your shareholders have been asking. What I hear from that is that that's something you might address in 2017 once you know that the operational performance is.
No, I would not phrase it this way. I would say it's in the back seat for the midterm plan. Okay? Yes.
I think some of us in the press are getting the sense from news developments all over the industry that there's an accelerating consciousness about autonomous driving among users, suppliers, OEMs, everybody, regulators, jurists, everybody. There's much more consciousness about this. Has this affected any of your own timetable at the auto companies, and has it affected your predictions when the uptake on this might be happening?
Well, I cannot talk about other companies. I can tell you for us. We really from the beginning said this is going to be center stage in terms of evolution of the car for the next years. What I call autonomous drive. I'm not talking about driverless cars.
Right.
It's a completely different thing.
Technology.
Autonomous drive, which means that the driver is in the car, and you're empowering him to do whatever he wants. That means if he wants to drive, he drives. If he doesn't want to drive, he doesn't drive in some circumstances. That's what we're talking about. I think it gets a lot of attention from the users, and I think the technology is ready to allow these things to happen. And I think it's going to happen step by step, because we need to make sure that the regulator in the different countries feel comfortable also by allowing this to happen. I remind you today that the regulation about driving cars are very strict today. I mean, you're supposed to have your eyes on the road all the time, your hands on the wheel all the time. That's it. Okay? So to persuade the regulator that you can take your hands off the wheel or your eyes from the road is going to take a lot of demonstration that there is zero risk on security. And it's up to us to make the demonstration. That's why I think it's going to come step by step. And for us, we have a timetable which is very clear. 2016, autonomous drive on highway, 1 lane. 2018, autonomous drive on the highway, 2 lanes. I mean, you can overcome automatically, I would say, without human intervention on the highway. In the meantime, you have also autonomous drive on the traffic jam. Okay? Then 2020, it's a city driving autonomous drive. So we have, and what does it mean? It means that little by little we want to bring technologies that would allow the regulator to accept hands of the wheel, eyes of the road in particular circumstances. That's what it means. Okay? So we think driverless cars are going to take much more than that. Except for the regulator accepting a car without a driver is going to take much more than that. Because what it implies is you solve a lot of problem of cybersecurity. You solve a lot of problem also of overcoming certain regulations which are extremely strict in terms of who is responsible for what, who is liable for what. So that's the timetable, and we think it's very important because.
So 2017, one hand.
No. 16, 18, 20.
16,
3 waves.
Sorry.
These are Nissan. 16, 18, 20. 16, one lane highway, 18 to overcome on a highway, 20 city driving. And in the meantime, also, probably by 18, it's traffic jam, automatic autonomous driving.
Mark?
Mr. Ghosn, one of your counterparts, Sergio Marchionni, has been pretty open. You may have heard about talking about the inefficiency of capital use in the auto industry and the need for consolidation. Is that a view that you share, and is there any discussion along those lines going on that you can talk about?
No, I think no, we don't have any talks. That's number one. Second is I think without any doubt there is a drive for consolidation, which is due to the fact that there is a lot of investment needs in this industry, both for technology, for product development, and because all the car makers have to become more and more global, so you need to be present in all the market, in all the segments, and to be able to develop all the technology. And when you are a relatively small player, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to do that. So the only way for you to remain relevant in the industry is to partner, ally, merge with somebody else. That's it. That's a basic logic. It's an operational logic. Now, you can have a financial logic, but I would say even operationally, it's obvious that we are going towards more and more consolidation. Now, consolidation is not only mergers. Again, consolidation can be alliance, can be cooperation, can be partnership or selective partnership in some areas. And I think you're going to see more and more of it.
How big do you need to be relevant?
I don't think it's a question of how big you are. I think what is important is how much can you, how much can you afford the investments, and how much can you compete in terms of scale. Now you can do this by partnering. Okay, you don't have to do it. You can do it by partnering. That means you don't have to develop a technology. You can buy it by somebody. You can use platform developed by somebody else. You can use engine developed by somebody else. You can use technology developed by somebody else. But this means, when I say consolidation, is sharing, contracting, allying, investing jointly, because I don't think anybody can afford anymore to invest on its own, on all the technologies, on all the products, in all the markets. I don't think so. I think there is room for a lot of cooperation at the level of the industry, again, to have a much better return on your investments.
Talking about the alliance for Renault-Nissan, do you have the intention, or are you ready, or do you have the intention to move to another step in this relationship between the two companies?
No, today, no. I think the only thing we're doing is continuing this convergence that we are organizing, keeping the brands separate, completely autonomous, and putting together everything that makes sense, and certainly that does not affect the consumer. Today we're putting together research, we're putting together advanced technology, we're putting together process engineering, we're putting together purchasing, we're putting together talent. Some of our executives now are not anymore Nissan executive or Renault executive, they become Alliance executive, and they are going here and there to work for one or the other company. That's what we're doing together. For me, what's important is keep the brands separate, keep the culture separate, and leave the two companies with their own motivation and their own drive and their own culture and their own history. This is extremely important because at the end of the day, that's what moves the company up. That's what allows the company to grow. So as long as we continue with this logic, I'm fine. And in fact, we are the only, I think, alliance working. We've been doing this for now 16 years. We never heard about any conflict, about problem. No more than any conflict or problem existing inside one car maker, which means that this is the right approach. That means this is the right approach, as long as the identity are preserved, but you developing synergies on a logical base between the two companies, things are fine.
Any plans for new partnership with other companies?
Yeah, we have plenty of new partners, but we are very innovative. That means depending on the partner, we have a different kind of cooperation. We have a cooperation with Daimler, it's different. We have a cooperation with Mitsubishi, it's different. There you may have, that means we can be a platform for a lot of cooperation in the industry because everybody recognizes the fact that we know how to do these kind of things. We can be in a win-win situation without being a threat or without being an obstacle to anybody.
I was just asking, autonomous driving is getting a lot of attention, but are you sad a little bit to see that the electric seems to be on the rear seat now?
No, I don't think so.
Driving a lot
I
of-
still think zero emission is part of the technology of the future, technology of today and of the future, because I don't know how you can meet the strict regulation coming in emission, in terms of emission in all the market without zero emissions. And I think it's going to get stricter and stricter. It's not going to get better. It's not going to get looser. It's going to get stricter. So so zero emission is here to stay and to develop. Now in zero emission you have electric cars and you have fuel cells. When you compare electric car to fuel cells, I would say technology of today is electric cars. Fuel cell is the technology maybe of tomorrow. Because the problem that electric cars are facing today, which are problem of infrastructure, well, you can imagine the problem of infrastructure that fuel cell is going to have, and then the problem of cost. And again, on both sides, electric cars are much way advanced than the fuel cell cars. So it's true that it's a little bit disappointing when you look at the level of sales globally compared to the intention. Not only intention of the car makers, but intention of governments also, okay? But what I see is you have more and more car makers coming with electric cars. You have even people outside the industry saying they're going to bring their own electric cars. So, I mean, you see more and more, you're going to see more and more development of offer of electric cars because everybody comes to the same conclusion that you can't escape in the transportation of the years to come is zero emission transportation.
Yeah. Oh.
Robert Wright from the Financial Times. When you were introducing the Maxima this morning, you talked not only about its performance, but also about its fuel economy.
Right.
And that's been a theme of this auto show. There have been a lot of luxury vehicles shown, and people have then gone on rather surprisingly to talk about their fuel economy. Is there a tension between what the fuel economy rules are requiring of you in the US market and what consumers want in terms of performance, and how do you balance those two things?
Yeah, well, I think consumers are expecting fuel efficiency, but not on detriment of what they want. I mean, you cannot tell them, by the way, you want a sports car, but I'm not going to offer you a sports car because sports car by definition is less fuel efficient than another car. They don't want that. They don't want you to dictate what they want, but they want a more fuel efficient sports car. That's what they want. When I tell them the Maxima is going to be 15% more fuel efficient on a highway, they applaud. Why? Because it's not on detriment of torque, of acceleration, of horsepower. They have everything they want, but they have it with a more fuel efficient car. They applaud for that. What they don't want is say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do the Maxima. You guys are going to have to buy a Leaf because we have to be much more fuel efficient or emission efficient. So our challenge is continue to get the consumer what they want, but in a more fuel efficient way. That's our challenge. I don't think any car makers is bragging about having cars which are less fuel efficient. I don't think you're going to see anybody coming and saying, "Whoa, I'm going to have a much bigger engine. I'm going to give you this." But by the way, no, everybody is coming and trying to feature the fact that they're doing a much better job. Why? Because it makes sense for the consumer. Now, but the consumer still wants the car they want. They don't want you to say, to be fuel efficient, I'm going to offer you something different. No, they don't want that.
What is the best technical solution for achieving this? I mean, you saw the Cadillac CT6 has got a lot of aluminum in it.
Yeah.
It's been lightweighted. Is lightweighting the way to do it? Is powertrain?
You have many solutions to reach that, and every car makers have its own blend of solution. Obviously, reducing the weight is important. We have, 82 pounds less in the new Maxima than the former one. Okay, the technology of engine is extremely important. You you have a lot of solutions, and every car makers have a completely different blend of solutions, but everybody driving in the same direction. I don't think you have one particular solution that solves everything. You're going to need a mix of different things to respond to the needs of the market. And there is something also very important. I think you need also to factor the fact that when you look at the emissions restrictions coming in the next years, they are pretty tough. So the mix of cars and the mix of technology we have today is not going to allow you to make it. You're going to have to do something completely different in order to meet the mission, particularly in the United States. And you're going to see a lot of trades taking place. One company buying electric car from the other company. One company buying emission trades. I mean, we sold a lot of credit in emission this year. This is one of the advantages of selling electric cars. We sell emission credits. Okay, so you're going to see more of this, but obviously you can imagine if you're doing it today, you can imagine how big it's going to be in a few years when the emissions are going to get much stricter. That's why I think zero emission has a place because first it's the right thing to do, and second because the regulations are going to be pushing over that.
Going back to the electric cars, Mr. Ghosn, do you have any agenda as the autonomous one, like by years or decades or every...
For electric cars?
Yeah. How much of your production will be electric cars? That will be my first question. The second one is, in Mexico you have achieved 26% of market share.
Yeah.
How much further are you pushing your team down there? And isn't it a little bit awkward that the other brand in Mexico, the Alliance, has one of the least market shares that Mexico has selling cars? Isn't it that you need to push a little bit the other brand in Mexico?
Yeah. Unfortunately, pushing people doesn't make it only. I mean, if it's only about pushing people to get the higher market share, I can tell you we would be much higher market share in a lot of countries. First, you need to push people. Second, you need people capable of achieving that. So, and I need to give credit to our Mexican team doing a superb job in Mexico, because if we have 26% market share, it's because we have 5 out of the 10 most sold cars in Mexico, which are Nissan. We are number 1 in customer satisfaction index. We are number 1 in sales satisfaction index. We have some of our cars have the highest overall opinion in Mexico. We have one of the strongest industrial system in Mexico. That means the plants are very large. They are localized in Mexico. They are extremely productive. So there are a lot of. We have a very strong dealer body, which is completely in sync with the management of the company. And frankly, we were lucky to have a series of great managers also in Mexico. This also counts. People count in all the factors. And this led to 26%. So it's going to be very hard to beat 26% for competition. And there is room to go above 26%, but the fundamentals are good. People like the cars are of good quality. You have a good service. And this is not us talking about us. These are indicators. We are widely spread into the industry. So there is a room for improvement. I think our objective is to maintain a very strong and sustainable leadership in Mexico, but a leadership which is based on attractiveness of the product, very good quality, reliability, and very strong management of the business and strong dealer network. And we're trying to do the same thing in the United States and in Canada. And I can tell you, when you have the right people in place, implementing the right strategy, you get the good results. We were a basket case in Canada a few years ago. People were saying, we were about 3% market share, and people say, when are you going to move the needle in Canada? It took us so many years to move the needle. Now we hit 7%. Okay, Mr. Muñoz has been leading the charge in Canada. He has a strong team with him, established a good relationship. Now the dealer body trusts, and there is a very good, relationship with the dealer body. We have the right product. We're bringing the right product to Canada. We are responding to the consumer the way the consumer wanted us to act. And frankly, I don't see any reasons for which the market share in Canada will not be at the same level than the market share in the United States. Okay? Now, the US is another case where a few years ago we were at 3-4% market share. Now we are at more than 9% market share. We said the milestone is 10. Well, we're going to get to the milestone, but again, sustainable 10, not a firework based on strong fleet sales and self-registration and all this stuff. No. Retail business, solid retail business, strong dealer network, good quality, good overall opinion, product by product, strong nameplates, Rogue, Altima, Sentra, Maxima, Pathfinder. That's what we're trying to do, establish the fundament of a very strong business. And I think, you know, we still have a lot of room to improve in North America. Maybe not in Mexico. 26% market share is a good score, even though I'm confident that this team will be able to push it higher. But I think particularly what we are expecting now is Canada and the United States to come to the 10% milestone.
And in Q1 they did 26.5, so
Yeah, the answer. You got the answer already. Yeah.
The agenda of the production.
No, look, on electric car is different than autonomous drive. On autonomous drive, it's a developing technology. You know, we're not ready, so we are developing step-by-step technology, and there is an evolution. The regulation is going to be very important to allow this. On electric car technology, there. I mean, we have proven the fact that electric car is a normal car, and whoever have driven the Leaf now understand that electric car is a normal car. You know, it's a normal car, except that it's zero emission. There is no exhaust pipe. There is nothing. That it's so. Now what we need is for the consumer to get confident. And for this, the key area is going to be the infrastructure. I mean, people say, yeah, but it's the range. You know, I bought a lot of cars before joining a car manufacturer. I bought a lot of cars. I never asked myself what's the range of the car. Never. I was saying, okay, my first car I bought, did I care about the range of the car? No, I didn't care about the range. And you know why? Because we have a gasoline station every 3-4 miles, wherever I am. So I don't care about the car driving 300 miles, 400, 200. I don't care because I could stop 5 minutes, I recharge. So the main problem is the charging infrastructure. Okay? The range is going to help, but it's not going to solve. As long as you don't have a charging infrastructure, you know, we're not going to see a very strong development of electric car. And the countries which are going to have this charging infrastructure are going to see a very big burst of zero emission.
Mr. Gavin, a question?
Yeah.
So then I'll go back to you.
So do you have any plan to expand the Datsun operation to Central or South America?
Today we have no plan to expand it today because we are maintaining mainly Datsun in India, Indonesia, Southeast of Asia, Russia. And we are really pushing into these markets. So there is no plan, but I'm not saying that in the future nothing is going to happen. What I'm saying is today the priority is mainly on this part of the planet.
Dave, two questions. How much of a disruptive threat do you see Apple to the entire industry and will push autonomous cars?
No, I don't think it's a disruption. Frankly, I think, we welcome anybody, particularly coming with electric cars, to the industry. I consider everybody bringing electric cars as more an ally than a competitor, because today we have more opportunity into making the electric car mainstream than into worrying about who's bringing more electric cars. Frankly, I think the more you have people saying, we're going to bring electric car, the more it's embedding into the market and the mindset that the electric car is here to stay and to develop and to boom and is going to be mainstream. So for me, I welcome any newcomer on electric car. We feel very confident about our technology. We feel very confident about all the progress we have in terms of cutting the cost and reducing the cost of the electric car, all the components of electric cars. So for me, when Apple announced that they're going to bring electric car, I'm very happy because in a certain way it brings more, credibility and brings more momentum to everything which is around electric car. And we are very curious because, it's a very innovative company, so we're curious to see what kind of innovation is going to be bringing to it.
And
And do you see enough demand there to make the Tennessee battery plant viable financially in the long term? And what's going to come next after the leap to the U.S. in terms of the EV market?
You're talking, I'm sorry, about Smyrna?
Oh, yeah, no, about your battery plant.
Yeah.
Is there going to be enough demand for?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, a battery plant is based on 50,000 cars a year. That's it. So we think that, and this is the only plant we have in North America. So selling 50,000 EVs in North America should not be, in my opinion, a task which is beyond our capacity. So no, I feel very good about the capacity we have today.
Oscar?
Yes, thank you. Oscar from Mexico. How do you foresee the growth of young population, young customers for Nissan, let's say that are being grown now in lesser rich countries, let's say America, maybe Asia, for like the new developments that you have been shown, like in Japan. So how do you see this transformation between public technology, this electric
Yeah,
cars?
there are a lot of people who think that young people in developed countries are less interested in cars. I don't think so. I don't think so. They are less interested in the cars we offer them today. You know what I mean? But they are very interested in cars. And we know what it takes when you analyze the millennium and the young people. We know what they want. You know, we know what they want, and we know what are the features that they like that will bring them back to the car. First they want a connected car. That's obvious. That means they don't want anymore a car where they have the impression there is a disruption between their life at home and their life at the university or their life in their working place. Because when they are in a car, they cannot be connected and they cannot continue all the conversations they are having normally at home, etc. So, first obligation is connected car. Second, and for a connected car to really be working, you need more autonomous drive. Because you want to really use the connection, you want to be able for a certain time to turn it to autonomous and be able to fulfill the connection. Third, they are extremely also favorable to environment. So everything which is low emission, high fuel efficiency, zero emission also is very popular, obviously at an affordable price. So we know what it takes to bring back the young people to the cars. And I think that with the development of connected car, autonomous drive, zero emission, low emission, we're going to get them back.
Lindsay and then Otuka.
Thank you. Two-part question. One, can you shed any light, can you tell us anything more about the recent press report that you're considering building a Mercedes pickup truck in one of your Nissan factories? And secondly, just the larger picture of the Daimler partnership. There seems to be no end to the opportunities. You've said in the past, if it makes sense, you'll do it. If it doesn't make sense, you won't do it. But you know, two giant global players like the RNA and Daimler, there's everything. I mean, there's how much is going on and how much can conceivably go on between the two?
Yeah, well, the cooperation with Daimler is going well because it's based on win-win and mutual interest, and because between Dieter and I, we said there is no taboo, we bring everything on the table from time to time, and we have to both agree on every project for the project to go. So from time to time, we have project coming, he's not interested, we stop, I'm not interested, we stop. When we both are interested, we go. So it's very, very simple, it's very open, and it's going very well, and we have many projects going on. Now you are alluding to press speculation here, not okay. So what are the facts? No, what are the facts? What are the facts? The fact is, Dieter announced that Daimler is going to go into the pickup truck. Good. Okay. Period. That's it. There's no more information than speculation. Now, are you saying, is this something that eventually can be on the table? I told you, everything is on the table between us. Now, not everything is decided positively, because from time to time, for whatever reason, one says no and it stops. So, and nobody feels obligated to collaborate with the other partner. Okay? So I don't want anybody to think that because they announce a pickup truck, they have to make it with us. Not at all. They are completely free to do it by themselves, to do it with somebody else, etc. And also to do it with us. For the moment, there is no decision, and the decision will be done by them. eventually. So you're going to have to wait more to see what is the follow-up of the story. But we certainly have nothing to say.
Hello, it's from Jordan, Michigan. I have a question about autonomous driving.
Yeah.
You said you're going to launch in 2016. It's already 2015. So
Yeah.
I would like to know which model you're going to launch. And my predict is, I think you're going to launch in Infinity models. And in Japan, we have a big expectation to it. But we don't have Infinity plans. So
Yeah.
are you going to launch in Japan too?
Yes, we launched it in Japan on a Nissan product.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
In
So you have your scoop in 2016.
Oh, I see.
So no, I don't want you to think that we're not going to launch it in Japan because there is no Infinity in Japan. You're right. There will be a Nissan product in Japan which will carry autonomous drive because Japan is a very important market for us. And obviously, when you have this kind of technology, we want also the Japanese market to enjoy it as soon as possible.
Paul? One of the things that's come up in the last few days is the push towards packaging and dropping prices on more advanced anti-collision technology. Toyota, you know about the system they did, the package they just came up with. Looking forward, do you think this is the trend of the future when we start seeing full packages because they all link together, they all basically use many of the same sensors, the same processors? Are we likely to see total collision warning and all these other things start to come together and start to drop in price and start to become high volume as opposed to niche specialty technology?
Yeah, you know, obviously one of the basic requests of consumers is safety. Okay, but this notion of safety is getting more and more sophisticated. It's being fed by the innovation brought by car makers. And, you know, when car makers are bringing with innovation, it becomes basic requirement of the consumers. So the Maxima is loaded with this kind of safety features. You know, we probably gave you all the list. Today, it's innovation, it's something new, it's selective to this car. But I'm sure all these elements in 1, 2, 3 years down the road are going to become basic requirements. So this is the way it goes. Because at the end of the day, cars, people want cars safer, lower emission, but at the same time still with their identity. That means if they want a sport car, they want a sport car. If they want a crossover, they want a crossover. They don't want any mixture between them. So yes, I'm expecting all these features to become more generalized and to drop in cost because when you're going to have the scale, well, by definition, the cost is going to drop.
Joe, follow? Yeah, just a quick question about the North America. You talked about a sustainable 10% share, which suggests that you may need more production capacity. That's the question. Do you need more production capacity to sustain that share?
We will certainly need more capacity. We are today feeding already some restriction in terms of capacity. For example, José Muñoz is asking for more Rogue because he's selling all the Rogues he can produce in North America. We have installed a pipeline coming from Korea, from our plant in Busan, shipping some Rogues. We may install some capacity even in Japan to support the offensive because the capacities are full in the United States. So what you're going to see first is when the capacity are going to be filled in North America, the first tentative is to use existing capacity which are competitive and fill them before going to additional investments in North America. But without any doubt, knowing that we're not going to limit ourselves to the 10% market share in the United States, which is a normal assessment, we obviously going to need more capacity in North America.
In North America, okay.
Yeah.
Eric?
Just a question regarding motorsport. Red Bull had very harsh words against you, your engine in Renault.
Against?
The Renault engine?
Renault. I'm talking about Renault. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry to switch
No, it's okay.
but,
no, just to make sure that there is no confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, against Renault. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm taking the opportunity because you're here to comment on that, and if you're going to be back as a brand in Formula One.
Look, we are, and I think the people who are dealing with Formula One in our company has already made an announcement saying that we are in full revision of our old strategy in Formula One. So, which is true, we are revising different options we have. There is one thing which is sure, is we are fully engaged behind Formula E. You know that there is now, beside the Formula One, you have an electric Formula One going on. I'm extremely supportive, and I think Formula E is certainly a formula of the future, no matter what happens with Formula One. But for the rest, it's still not defined. When it will be defined, we will certainly make a communication about our strategy in Formula One.
We go here, and then Dave, and then we'll get the last question after you. Mark?
Honda's U.S. sales chief yesterday was very critical of Nissan's reliance on heavy incentives and selling fleets quite a bit. I wondered if you had any kind of response or reaction or
No.
explanation.
We look at the facts. I mean, obviously, a lot of people make statements, but always when there is a statement like this, we say, okay, let's look at our incentive level, and let's look at our sales per channel, retail versus fleet versus self-registration. I was discussing this with José this morning, and I'm going to let him give you the answer. You know, very factual.
Well, let's talk about a couple of facts. So I maybe start by saying that both January, February, March, Nissan has been ahead of Honda in the United States. It happened the last year, but this year the gap is wider. So probably that's one element. The other element you may know, so you've seen that the US market lately has increased a lot in fleet. So for example, in March, we've seen that in fleet, from the numbers that we get from the official sources, some of our key direct competitors have grown significantly in fleet, double-digit growth. We have actually dropped by 17% our fleet year over year. And in the
17 or 217?
17% reduction in March, which has been the month that we've been criticized. Actually, our fleet sales went down 17%.
Compared to March last year.
Compared to March last year.
Yeah.
Also, in the quarter, if you look at the quarter, which is when we have widened the gap with this competitor, the fleet market has grown by 10%. Nissan's fleet percentage has dropped by 4%. And this is again data which is available. So I wouldn't say fleet is the driver. So we've grown by far more on retail than on fleet. Actually, our total percentage of fleet has remained this year as last year, more or less at the level of 15.4%, something like this. So fleet, as mentioned by Mr. Ghosn, is not the key strategy. Of course, we need to be active in fleet, because in fleet you have a lot of sub-segments. You have the rental, which is not very, I would say, profitable, but then you have the commercial fleet, which is what we are focusing. So I can tell you that within the 15% that we have had this year, the area where we have grown the most is being actually in commercial by more than 60%. So, and as a conclusion, our rental percentage has dropped. So that's the direction that I would like to mention. Now, the other fact is that if you look at calendar year 12, calendar year 13, calendar year 14, you will see that our level of incentives has dropped from more than $2,900 2 years ago to around $22-something $100 so this year. So our level of incentives have dropped. In our fiscal year, which we measure and we finish on March 31st, our incentives drop like 8%, something like this. Other Japanese competitor has remained flat. Actually, the competitor who increased the incentives, according to JD Power, has been Honda. So I would say that probably there are some other issues. The other fact I would like to tell you that if you look at the three key segments where we compete together, the compact, the mid-size sedan, and the compact SUV. So we've seen that, for example, in the compact SUV segment, now that we've got availability coming from Korea of Rogue, Rogue has been growing steadily, so we overtook the month of March RAV4, first time ever, and we came very close to Honda CR-V. So we gained share significantly the last few months when we have had availability, and in the fiscal year to date we have earned a segment share when our competitor from Honda has lost a share. You go to compact, so Sentra, we have been the biggest winners in the segment, more than 2 points year over year. Again, mainly on retail. You can ask, look at the data as well. And even in the mid-size sedan, we have maintained more or less our segment share with Altima, and we've seen some of our competitors as well suffering. So I think that the fact is that we are growing, our incentives are dropping, our mix of fleet has been maintained. Within fleet, we have increased significantly the commercial fleet, and we have reduced the rental. So our growth is very strong, steady, healthy, and we have, on the contrary, we have lack production, namely on the Rogue, Sentra, and others, to be able to grow further. So our growth in passenger cars has been so big that we ended the fiscal year as the third OEM in terms of car sales, ahead of Honda and ahead of Ford in the fiscal year. But now the last quarter, we continue to grow, so we overtook as well Chevrolet. So we became number 2 in cars in the US market, only behind Toyota. Now with the offensive in trucks, with the recent launch of the new Murano, the availability of Rogue, and later this year with the launch of the new Titan, I think we will also grow significantly in trucks. So those are the facts, so we can share them with you, so, and those are my comments.
So, do you, all that being said, do you expect to overtake Honda in the US this year?
No, look, the objective is not to overtake anybody. The objective is reach 10% market share and continue the growth. Whoever is behind, whoever is in front is in front. That means I think the market is open, it's not owned by anybody. It's a question of segment by segment, market by market, product by product. Try to attract the consumer based on technology, on performance, that's it. So frankly, we are not at all targeting anybody. We just want to continue to progress. We see a lot of potential for us in North America, and we're going to go after it.
Last question, David.
When do you see, I know at one point you thought 2020 you'd hit 10% EV sales. How far beyond that do you think you'll hit that number? And do you think the U.S. government needs to revise the final years of the fuel economy mandates? They're going to start the midterm review fairly soon.
Do I think they need to revise? Look, I'm not going to tell anybody what to do. That means government decide. We can influence governments, obviously. We need to bring arguments for government, but at the end of the day, they decide. And obviously, car makers don't all have the same opinion. They have different technologies, they have different approaches, which is fine. But what is important is to allow governments to make a decision with a good knowledge about what is possible and what's not always possible, and then in function of this, let the ball roll. So I'm not going to tell you I'm expecting them to change or not to change. We'll play by the rules, and they fix the rules. Now we try to influence the rules with the facts that we're having with us. What I'm saying is, no matter what, if there is an evolution or not, zero emission is, for me, you can't replace it. You can't just do without zero emission. Every car maker is going to have a strategy in zero emission. And if it change, in my opinion, it's going to get tougher. If it change, I'm not expecting it to become easier. I think I'm expecting it to get tougher. Now on EV, because of the nature of the obstacles in front of EV, which is mainly for the moment infrastructure, it's very difficult for me to give you a forecast, because in infrastructure we depend on governments, not only on government decision, but also on execution of the decision, because you have two obstacles. The first obstacle is government decides to equip with a network of charging stations, and second is the existence, because often there is a big time between government decides and then the infrastructure is being installed. We have no doubt on the fact that we're moving up. The speed at which it will be going up, unfortunately, is more the result of a public-private discussion, decisions made by government, and execution made by the states, the cities, and the communities, which means that we're going to have to be patient.
Thank you very
That's
much.
it? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
How are you?